show. Why is this show called this, you may ask? So I'll tell you. The accepted meaning of angel is messenger, and the accepted meaning of destiny is to make firm establish. So my guests and I bring you messages to establish what you need to know in the present. And of course, I like working with angels and the calmness they bring. Now, in a moment, I will introduce you to my wonderful guest, Teresa Campos. But before that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching the show live at a later date, as it means a lot to both of us to connect with like-minded people. Now, if you've never met me before, then my name is Ray, and I'm the founder of Radiant Angel Energy. And I'm a guide who helps you remember your divine presence so that you can heal your past, find your purpose, create your future to expand your consciousness, understand your spiritual path, get clarity on your next steps to take charge of your destiny so that you can fulfill your purpose in this lifetime. Now, each episode of this show covers various themes of your journey, a mini guided meditation and/or angel oracle card reading with the wisdom of my wonderful guests, like today's guest, Teresa Campos, about humanity's cosmic restructuring. Now, 31 years ago, Teresa embarked on a transformative journey into the enchanting realms of cosmic mysteries and energy medicine. Through extraordinary experiences that ignited her soul's purpose, she found her calling as a spiritual teacher, Curandera, which is a medicine woman, and Intuitive Astrologer, drawing from ancient wisdom teachings and her profound understanding of the cosmos. Teresa guides individuals on a journey of self-discovery and empowerment, with a focus on awakening inner power and nurturing a deep connection with nature. She inspires others to embrace their spiritual essence and step into their true potential. In humanity's cosmic restructuring, Teresa explores the profound shifts occurring within our world and existence on both a cosmic level and within our lives. Through themes of evolution, transformation, and interconnectedness, she challenges us to reevaluate our place in the cosmos and embrace the opportunities for growth presented amidst rapid change and uncertainty. By examining the current cosmic restructuring, Teresa offers insights and perspectives that empower individuals to navigate these transformative times with grace and wisdom, leading to personal and collective evolution. With testimonials such as, Teresa guided me to see that I'm a powerful and connected and helped me understand the whole of who I am. I expanded from having little trust in myself to confidently moving forward toward what feels good with deep faith and I trust my intuition. And Teresa's reading opened up new understandings of how my parental dynamics have contributed to how I got stuck and unempowered today. She pinpointed the steps that will help me move forward in the natural flow. I highly recommend Teresa's work, not just as an astrologer, but also as a spiritual guide. So without further delay, hello, Teresa, and welcome to the Angels and Destiny show. How are you today?
Thank you, Ray. I am fantastic. I am excited to be here and have this conversation with you.
Absolutely brilliant. So before we do get into this fascinating conversation, I want to remind you that not only can you share this video, but you can also ask questions, leave comments and thoughts, as both Teresa and I want to be part of this conversation. So please don't be shy, say hello. So Teresa, why don't you tell us more about your journey and about humanity's cosmic restructuring?
Yes. So let me begin with first giving a little bit of my background and how I came to be sitting here in this chair speaking to you 30 plus years later. It began, like I said, over 30 years ago when my mother was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And as anyone would realize or experience, that definitely was a shock to my system. It was a shock to the family. And unfortunately, my mother passed away 6 months after her diagnosis. But that led me and awakened something inside of me, not only from a place of fear, but from a place of wanting to understand more about how the body works as a system in terms of, how we take care of it, what we put into it. Because at that point, that is exactly where my mind and my awareness was, is like, okay, you eat good, you exercise, and that should be hopefully enough to keep you healthy. And so why would something like this come up for my mother and for the family? So that journeyed me into several different areas. It journeyed me into the world of quantum physics with Deepak Chopra, into Louise Hay at the time. You can heal your life. I mean, she is such an icon, right? In the
Yeah.
whole body connection energy. And then also led me to work with a woman who really was really life changing for me, which is Carolyn Mace. I did a 3-year course work with her, learning about energy medicine and sacred contracts. But what really came about through that was, at the time, I was working as a cosmetologist, and I did that for a number of years. And through the course of working with people, what I began to realize is I began to open up, and my consciousness began to understand things in a way that it hadn't. And me doing my own shadow work is that I started to understand patterns and see patterns in people's conversations, of them sharing things of what was happening in their life. And then I began to just receive information that I would share with them based on what they were sharing with me. And one of the other pieces that was really powerful for me is, being a creative artist in the world of hair. I would go to hair shows. And I remember being at one particular hair show and watching one of the stylists on stage teaching a new way of doing a particular cut and style. And what was so fascinating is that I had, like, prior to that, had, I'm going to say now, had channeled that same idea that he himself was teaching. And this is all very innovative work. And what I realized, actually, I realized this more later on, is that, wow, we can actually tap into the collective unconscious, that all things are out there. And that's exactly what I did, and that's what he did. And so what was so beautiful about that is there was no ownership to it for me. There was no like, oh, I did that first, or that sort of thing, that we get caught up in our ego.
Yeah.
So that again was another powerful piece. But just continuing forward in that realm of that, the world of cosmetology, this work, the through my time doing the work with Carolyn Mace, it's this work that began to emerge, and that I began to hear a calling that said, "This is what you're going to do." And that this, I had no clue. I just knew it was going to be in the arena, right? I mean, I know you
Yeah.
could probably relate to that, Ray, right?
Yeah, they don't give you, you're doing this, this, this. They go, you're doing something, but they don't tell you what it is.
Exactly, exactly. And then the other part of it too is that, and I know you probably can relate to this, Ray, and many of the listeners out there that are in the healing arts in this way, is that there is not a template for this. We are pioneers. And so that also was this whole overwhelming uncertainty, is like, okay, I'm supposed to be doing this, not quite sure what this is, but I'm just going to continue to follow the path. So fast forward, I won't take you through everything, but fast forward today, here I am. I'm no longer in the world of cosmetology. I'm an artist in another way, with helping people to design their life and to co-create their life. And then also, the other big piece here is that experience of tapping into the collective unconscious became a very common thing for me. And especially when I dropped into this work of my study of astrology and studying patterns, and then seeing things in conversations with clients, in just conversations with friends, what I see sometimes on the news, all of these informational pieces of the puzzle help me to understand the energies that were present, and to create a bit of a template of like, wow, there's something greater happening here, as we all know. But it really tapped me into the energy of the collective. And so that's introducing here the conversation that we're going to have today, which is about the cosmic restructuring that we are presently in.
Yeah, which is an absolutely fascinating topic, because when you look at what's going on in the world today, you could kind of like go, "Oh my God, everything is just crazy. We're doomed."
Mm.
And that, I wish I had my Scottish friend here, because I love it when she says we're doomed. That's the aside. But yeah, it's all this energy that's going about, and people are really confused and
Mhm.
worried and scared about it.
Yes. And, you know, I'm going to use this as a starting point, because I think this can really, well, there's two big pieces here. many pieces, but two that I'm just going to focus on. And one of them is I'm going to begin with the connection and the remembering of our indigenous roots. And that is a really powerful piece for all of us to take note of, because that is exactly what is part happening for us today, is the remembering of not only just our indigenous roots, but the remembering of our own divinity. Okay. And in order to do that, it's like it's so important for us to get back to how we are either rooted or not rooted in on this planet. And what became the big shakeup, I'm going to say, I mean, there's been many things, but I'm going to just, because this is something we all can relate to, the world can relate to, was when we hit the pandemic in
Yeah.
2020. Okay. And not to go into any of that, down that rabbit hole, but it's a marker there. It's a marker of what emerged from that. And I'm going to talk about this from a symbolic metaphoric place. We don't need to get into the details of the carbon-based experience, but more of the spiritual metaphor and
Yeah.
symbology of it. That awakened fear in a different way. And it awakened fear within people that wasn't even completely connected to the pandemic itself. It was fear, shadow fear that had been hidden. And when we talk about shadow, it's not shadow as always as in, oh, what I don't want to see. And it's also our light that's been hidden as well. But so here we have this quality of fear now that is still present in is taking other forms and shapes, and based on the narratives that we're hearing and seeing. And then we have this other rise of what we're seeing, like a lot of plant medicine, a lot of very indigenous practices coming to light, ceremonial things, that sort of thing. And they're both connected, right? Because everything is. And this is all part of trying to move us back, and not backwards, but back to more of our essence.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. I mean, if you sort of like you're on Facebook or anything like that, you get so many ads coming up now, or sort of like reels or it's reels on TikTok where people are talking about natural medicines, like create a hair tonic. You can do this yourself by using rosemary and olive oil, and there's so many of those things that are really coming into the fore now, without people realizing that there's a lot more of that stuff there coming online now.
exactly. And that is all part of this restructuring, right? So the restructuring of going back to the roots, going back to plant medicine, whether it is the plant medicine that we use as herbs for supporting our system, or even some of the psychedelics that are out as well. But like what you're saying is like, because so then let's go to the actual literal like restructuring. And one of the words that has been thrown around quite a bit is the patriarch, right?
Yeah,
And so I want to define that a little bit in the context of what I want to speak about it today, and that I'm sure that we'll talk about today is, so we have the structure of what the masculine is structure, masculine is form, the feminine is the essence, the information, the emotions, the wisdom, the knowledge, our feelings, all that sort of thing. And so through the course of time, through colonization, through lots of other things, that we need structure, we need a form of structure, because otherwise it's chaos.
yeah,
Okay. But here we are, we've come to this time where we are actually in this restructuring of how humanity needs to progress forward in terms of its evolution. I'm not talking about progress in terms of capitalism, but progress in terms of evolution, in order for us in order for humanity to grow in the way that it is destined to.
yeah,
And so that's where we're feeling all of this, some of us, this anxiety, this angst, this struggle, this uncertainty, because it can feel very threatening for some people.
yeah,
But just as like as Ray, as I know, and some of your listeners out there, that when we are in a transformational time in our life, which we are constantly, but when we are really looking at our own transformation and we're doing work, it gets uncomfortable. We have to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Yeah.
so to speak. And so humanity is its own entity, and it is just like each of us. It too is going through this process. It is part of the cosmic restructuring. And what I think is so very powerful that can help for some to realize is that, for example, an acorn is meant to grow into an oak tree.
Yep.
We as infants are meant to grow into adults, if that's the contract of our life in terms of our age. And so humanity itself has its own contract. It too has its own natural evolution that it is evolving, growing into. And here we are on the ground floor of it watching, and some of us are going, "No, wait, we don't want it to go that way." And so we're fighting it.
Yeah. And the fighting, I mean, I don't know if you agree with this, but the fighting is because we don't understand. It's like those that are fighting it don't have that understanding that this is a change, that will be of benefit to them because of that comfort zone that's now sort of like been taken away from them.
Mhm. Exactly, yes. And I think that is, I think what's so powerful also about what's happening now is that more people are being open than what they have been because they're ready. And I don't necessarily think it is a product of they decided they are. It is the vibration and the evolution of the consciousness that is moving people toward that. So it's really not a conscious, oh, I am ready to do this, although some may say that. But this is just part of evolution, and I think that's what's so fascinating, Ray, because on some level, it's like, we know we talk about, do we have control? We don't have control. I feel that we're co-creators. We have, we can make choices, but it's just like almost again the example of the acorn and the oak tree. It's inevitable. It's going to grow hopefully into this oak tree if it's fed and that sort of thing. So there's a part of it. It's like, wow, we don't get to control. And at the same time, on another level, we do get to control our choices.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I think people kind of like, it's difficult for them to get their head around and to understand, because we've always been taught control, not sort of like that they can work together. That's never been in the sort of like what we've been taught since children. It's either you're in control or you're not in control. There's never been that, well, it actually works together, and it flows, and it might go this way or that way, but it'll come back to that way or that way.
Mhm.
And you know people are beginning to understand that a lot more now, I think.
I agree. I agree. And, cosmically, I'll bring in a little bit of what is coming in cosmically. We just had a really big eclipse. It was a total
Mm,
eclipse, which is pretty profound. And, each of these cosmic events that we have are all, in a sense, they're all part of this portal of energy that's opening, right? And these frequencies that actually shift us. And then we have what just came into our timeline here, is that the shift of Pluto. So Pluto is a planet that's pretty far away. It takes approximately Pluto to circle the sun anywhere from 246 to 248 years. And that's a long time. And so because of that, and based on the astrological wheel, which is the 12 signs, 12 houses, um, Pluto stays in a particular theme for anywhere from 16 to 20 years. So when it makes a shift, it's a big shift for us that we feel. And so just recently here in June, it made a shift from being in the sign of Capricorn. It's now moved into Aquarius. which it'll retrograde back this year a little bit, but then it'll be full throttle forward for 20 years, Aquarius. And so what is the theme? What is the archetype of Aquarius? Well, Aquarius is about we the people. Okay. Pluto is about the death and rebirth, the destruction, the annihilation of, like, what must die? What must die? And if Pluto could speak, it would say surrender or die. And I don't necessarily mean the literal death, although there will be souls that will be sacrificed during this time. And we definitely are grateful. I want to say I'm grateful for
Yeah.
their sacrifice
Oh,
that they
totally.
yes, that they've come here to be part of this process, as we all have. And so that theme of that combination of those two archetypes is about we the people. It's not about an external thing that's going to come and save us. It's an internal thing where we have to save ourself first, so then it can then reflect the external experience, the external um like visuals that we're seeing out in the world. Because if we're seeing stuff out there that is making us feel uncomfortable or feels negative, then we have to do an internal evaluation.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. We kind yeah, it's like because we do create our reality. So we do sometimes need to look at what is going on within us to make the changes for that external change. And then when we make that external change, the energy shifts, and that's sort of like as a butterfly effect, because the next person, their energy then changes, and the next person, and then it just starts growing and growing and growing and growing, till they're well, it'll just keep growing into infinity, basically.
Yes, yeah. And then, just to tie again in that whole indigenous part of our indigenous roots, like, we're all indigenous. We all have indigenous roots. And then at the core of that indigenous roots, it's like, where do we go ultimately as human beings? We are human beings, right? Because we have incarnated on this planet Earth. Okay, Earth, just that in itself, the element of Earth.
Yeah.
And so when we root, in essence, we all become the same, because we are all the same. And I looked at some of the wisdom keepers, and I'm going to say you're a wisdom keeper, so am I. There are many of us out there, and
Mm.
then there's those ones that have never changed, moved away from their indigenous wisdom keeping traditions. And the hit that I got when I was watching something, I think it was on Gaia or something like that, and they were showing these gentlemen from, I believe it was, Peru, and just their ceremonial things that they did every day, and how they were keepers of the earth. And it's like we have these individuals out there that are actually helping us to stay tethered in earth, because we have spiraled so far away from that. And over especially the last few years, we are now remembering, and that's the thing, we are remembering,
Mhm.
and we are being pulled back to the earth, right? And I think that is so remarkable and powerful.
Yeah, and it is, and one of the things, that anyone who knows me will always say, is what I say to them, is ground. Make sure you are grounded. You are here fully present on earth at this moment in time. Because, we are connected out there, we are up there, but we need to bring that energy into here and now, because we are humans. We chose to come here in a physical form to experience things on the physical level. And if we sort of like stay out there, we're never going to experience them. So we're not going to grow and learn, and we're not going to help the collective energy.
Exactly. Yes. And so, like, we're talking here about this whole collective emergence and the evolution and the revolution, really the spiritual revolution that we're in right now, where we're moving out of matter into energy, and not that matter is disappears. It's just that we have been so hyper focused on matter in the five sensory world, and also the world of reason, of what makes sense. And when the era of reason came in back in the 1800s, I mean, that solved and created a lot of understanding for so many
Mm,
things in science and all of that. And one of the quotes or the narrative that I heard during COVID was, believe in the science or trust the science,
yeah.
that sort of
Follow
thing.
follow the science. I think that was the
Exactly,
one.
exactly, and it's like, "Oh my god, that is all part of this patriarchal, shadow masculine." And see, the thing is that, that is also what will keep us in this wounded trauma place and fear thinking, because all of that was shut down many years ago. But so now as this opening is starting to happen, it's like we must entertain the unreasonable, that which cannot be explained, because we are more than just the five sensory carbon based DNA. We also have crystalline chromosome DNA, and that is part of our whole energetic system.
Yeah, it totally is. And again, I think more and more people are waking up to it. And I think there's more scientists as well that are kind of like, the leaps and bounds in quantum physics and everything like that. It's kind of like bringing that aspect into it. And it's about being curious as well, rather than sort of like, black and white. There is grey, there is colour in between that. We just have to look for it, to search for it, and be curious um, about life. Go back to being like children, being curious. What?
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Yes, curiosity. Really, and back to that, to remembering our own innocence as well. Yeah. And I really feel that, it's also very imperative that, that we understand that this time frame that we're in, like, we all incarnated into this time frame to be part of this whole grand process that's happening here. And it's easy to get caught up in the uncertainty of what's gonna happen, what if so and so is elective, what all of these things, right? And, I always want to encourage those that I work with and that I come across, is that we've gotta get out of just the me piece, and we've got to look at it from the meta view, not just the micro view of things. Because if we don't have an understanding of a bigger picture here, then we are going to be caught in the victimization of what is happening here. And that's where we're fighting. We're struggling the victimization of it. The majority is. There's their minority that is not, but the majority is. And so that gets us into feeling, that's where all the fight comes from. That's where war comes from, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I do understand that sometimes things have to be destroyed in order for them to be recreated. I do understand that, and I think it's part of, any transformative process. Um, and at the same time, that if we're looking at things from a place of feeling victimized by them, then we're looking at it from a place of right and wrong, black and white, that sort of thinking, and that gets us caught up in this whole spiral of not being able to escape what's happening.
yeah. And I, and sort of like it is that fear we can't escape what's happening. And I think that is what holds a lot of people back. It's kind of like, I can't escape what's happening. Whereas if they actually, somebody actually goes within and starts connecting and asks, you know, how can I move forward? What if I move forward? They actually come out of that fear of not being able to escape, because they actually do escape technically from whatever limitations they or others have put on them.
Exactly. And you know what, Ray, if we're in fear, then it's very difficult to access love. I mean, it just is. It's just very difficult. And I feel really strongly that this element of fear is the very thing because that we must learn to understand within ourselves. And many times, like you ask somebody, like, why aren't you able to move forward on this? Or, why do you feel stuck? Oh, I have fear. And then we want to identify the fear. And that's helpful when we can identify the fear. But I think what's really important is, I like to get to the bottom line. I'm kind of a bottom line person, right? Like, let's just get to the nitty gritty of it. So it's really about dealing with fear itself. And sure, you want to put an identifier, that's fine. For some people, it's going to be money, it's going to be this, but the bottom line is that we're talking about fear. And what I learned about fear is that I used to think it was about conquering your fear. Okay. And I learned through my own experiences that that became a way of being in a power struggle. Okay. If we try to conquer our fear, then it creates some sort of a power struggle. And that is actually the very thing that fear will feed off, is a shadow power. So a little story here, because this was like a game changer for me in my life. I probably, I think it was 14 years ago, I went with a group and we went to hike Mount Whitney. Now, Mount Whitney is about 14,500 feet. And I had never done anything like this before. And so we were going to summit. The plan was to summit the mountain. And through the course of that trip, now I'm afraid of heights. Just that's an important piece here. I'm afraid of heights. And so we get to the top, and when you're climbing up, you're not really looking down. Okay. And not that there's, there's areas where there's really some severe drops, right? Because you're up pretty high. So climbing up, there really wasn't an issue. Climbing down, on the way down, we got to a certain point, and it probably was about 13,000 feet. And when you're up there, it's very possible that you can get altitude sickness. And that altitude sickness can cause you to not be able to be, it's kind of like a kind of little, not really drunk, but there is that kind of a feeling. And so through the course of this trip, a bunch of us had split up, and then there was just myself and somebody else, that my cousin that I was walking down with. And we got to this certain point of where I looked down, and the drop was just, I don't even know how to measure feet, but when I look by viewing it, but it was pretty far of a drop. And I just thought to myself, oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing here? And this wave of fear came over me. And that was that experience tapped me into that feeling of when people get so scared, they just jump.
Yeah.
They just jump. And I could feel it in my body. And I was just overwhelmed by that. And I'd had a conversation with one of my mentors about a month ago, and he was teaching me about fear and power through one of the stories of Hercules, and I won't go into that. And I never quite understood that story when he told it to me completely. Like, I couldn't relate it, but I heard it. And it wasn't until that moment that it all made sense to me. And so what came from that was that, all right, Teresa, you've got some choices here of how you want to do this, because nobody's getting you down this mountain except for you. And you can try to control this feeling of fear, which ultimately is going to be a fight. And fear is going to just be um, overpowering you. So you can try to do that. So I can control the fear, or I can let the fear control me. Either way, it was not going to be a win. It's not a win-win situation. And I realized there was a third alternative. And this is what my mentor was talking to me about. is that I would walk with fear as a companion, not as something that was taking me over and not something I was trying to control. So the power of fear left and it was still present, but it allowed me to drop the energy I was feeling and continue to walk forward very, very much in the present. And that right there, Ray, was a game changer for me
Yeah.
because I've applied that to everything that's come up in my body that makes me feel that way. And then I just have this, I'm able to take this breath and just let it go. It may still be there because it usually is, but it's not, I'm not being controlled and I'm not in a power struggle. And that changed everything.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing and a brilliant thing, for anyone who's watching this to take away with them, and those that I can see watching, if you've got any questions or anything, about what Tree's been talking about, then please do, this is your chance to ask them now. So how do you normally work with, so let's go on how you normally work with people so people get an idea of how you can work with them.
Yeah. So I work with people one on one. And, and so we set up some type of a relationship that works for us. I typically like to work with people like 6-month periods of times. That I find that to be a very good length of time in order to move through and get through some things that are necessary. I also do individual astrological readings for people as well. And then one of my very exciting things that I've been doing over the last 3 years is I've been doing retreats to Shasta in Shasta, California. I live about 3.5 hours from there. So I do those and I take people up there, and Shasta is a magical, wonderful place. Next year, I'll be incorporating some more retreats and be going to Mexico and as well as Shasta. So my work is, I work with people all over the world. Much of it is on Zoom, and then here locally, I will also have things that are in person that come up that I offer. So my work is basically one on one, and of course, some group work as well.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So, as you know, I do guided meditations and angel oracle card readings, and each week I like to ask my guests whether they would like me to pull an oracle card for themselves and those watching, or do a mini guided meditation. So, Teresa, what would you like?
I would love for you to pull a card for us.
Yeah, I've got my cards right here. Surprise, surprise. Never go anywhere without cards if I can help it. So as always, when I do the cards for what you need to know in your present moment for your highest good. So although I work with the past, when I take people back to the past, it's to heal, learn, and understand so that they can be fully present without worrying. And when I take people into the future, it's so they can see, know, and understand, get the steps they can take so they can come back to the present and not worry about the future. So what does Teresa and everyone who's watching this live or the replay need to know for their highest good at this moment in time? Oh, okay. We'll actually go with two cards, shall we? Seeing as two
Yeah.
cards decided to come out. We have got answering the call. The time is now. And we have got distant thunder. Clear the air.
Mm.
Which, kind of like in a way really ties into what we've actually been talking about, about humanity's reconstruction. Um, and that, so on a personal level, for you, Teresa, it is kind of like, it's getting clearing all this stuff that no longer needs to be around you now so that you can fully step out and answer that call that you're supposed to be doing. You're doing it already, and this is just confirmation that you really need to step up now and get your message out there, and all the little things that might have been holding you back. It's time to let them go now. It's kind of like,
Mhm.
they're
Mhm.
not going to stop me going forward. And again, for everyone who's watching this, it is, clear the air, whether that is sort of like clearing things that no longer serve you in your life, but also any conversations with other people that are holding you back. It's time now to clear that air because of this collective consciousness, and actually start getting in sync, because when you clear that air, you start getting in sync with the people around you, which then allows you to actually step out and answer that call and actually bring more stuff into your life. You know, and really step into who you truly are. So absolutely amazing cards that have come out. So yeah, we absolutely love those. So Teresa, do you have any insights or thoughts or last words of wisdom or nuggets to leave our viewers?
I do. I want to comment on the reading you just did because
Mm.
I love the distant thunder, because it's like it's that power inside, and that's a part of my work is I help people to tap into their own power that's already there in that distant thunder. It's like, oh, it's like I just felt that so deeply when you said that. A great card. And so I'm gonna just piggyback on that and say my last words are, you were incarnated to this time. We all were. And we're all here to usher in and be stewards of the universe and of humanity, and to not feel that, to do your best not to feel at the affected and victim of what's happening, because we're all part of this process, and we need you all. We need you all to step into the discomfort, to lean into whatever you know you need to lean into. It is imperative. So those are my last words that I have to share.
Beautiful words and very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. So I hope everyone that you've enjoyed this conversation and found it insightful, because I know I definitely have. So if people want to connect with you, Teresa, how do they do that?
Yes, the easiest, fastest way is to connect with me on my website, because there's a contact there, and it is Teresa with no H, Teresa Campos at teresacampos.com. That was my email address I was about to give out. But yeah, teresacampos.com. That is the easiest way. And you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You'll also might see me under the description as Your Life's Design. And that's one of my that's my Instagram handle, Your Life's Design, I believe it is. Yeah.
Yep, it is indeed. And what I will do is I will put those links in the comments, so people can actually go straight there. And I believe you do a complimentary consultation as well.
I do. I do. I want to offer that if someone wants is curious, to use one of the words that we talked about today, is more curious and would like to set up a consultation. I'm happy to do that. And even if you're not quite sure, it's like, I don't know, I just have this feeling I'm just going to connect, and and we can see where we go from there. If we do, beautiful, and if we don't, beautiful. It's all wonderful.
It is. So thank you for offering that. And thank you so much, Teresa, for sharing
Mm.
your wisdom. It's been an absolutely amazing conversation. And of course, for those watching, if you are now ready to remember your divine presence and step onto your spiritual multidimensional path, but you feel lost, confused, stuck, or alone, then please feel free to reach out and connect with me, and we can arrange a free 20-minute clarity video call where we can see where you are now and how you can move forward to take charge of your destiny so that you can spread your wings and soar. And of course, you can receive a free future life progression recording to discover your destiny by seeing into your future, to get guidance and clarity that you can use in your current life, as well as a couple of other free gifts by signing up to my email list. And again, thank you everyone so much for watching. And I'd like to invite you to share this video, as I'm sure there are more people who feel lost and want to get clear on their destiny just like you. And of course, if you are watching this on YouTube, then please feel free to subscribe and hit that bell button to be notified when the show goes live or I post new guided meditations. And, if you have any comments or thoughts or questions, still put them in as you watch the replay, because we will circle back to answer them for you. And do follow both myself and Teresa on social media, YouTube, etc. Because the more people that follow us, share our work, really does help that collective consciousness to raise that vibration of earth so that we can all make a big, big difference. I look forward to seeing you all same time next week. And I believe Tanita, so I don't know if you watched the whole show, Tanita, but if you did, thank you. If not, enjoy the replay, and thank you for saying hi to us. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.